What would you say, though, to the pastor who says, okay, or the church leader, staff member who says, okay, I didn't even set out to create a system that I didn't want to be in, but now I'm in a system that's not healthy and it's crushing me. Where would you tell them to start towards, like, what's the first step towards health?
Well, I would say, paying attention to your weekly rhythms is a really important thing, obviously, taking some time there. I think when it comes to, and there's a lot that can be said about all of that, rhythms of rest, rhythms of vacation. But where you'll inevitably find yourself in is you'll become crashing into the biblical idea of sabbatical, of, every 6 years, let, the ground rest, like it says in the Old Testament. It's like you're supposed to work another field for a year and then come back to it. And I think that rhythm of like the soil that the Old Testament is talking about is really prophetic for like the health of the soil of our heart, Mm-hmm. And so you're going to come crashing into this place where you're going, I'm going to need some time off. And you and I talked about this because I had just taken sabbatical. We knew this season was coming up. So when I say David and we had this conversation, we had it like 2 years before he left. So it wasn't like it was like 2 weeks. He's like, hey guys, I'm burned out. It's time for me to go. So we had 2 years to really start slowly changing things. And so I would say, if you're a church leader, you're in the system already and you're going, I can't imagine making this change. I think you'd be amazed at what you could do if you take a real slow approach and you go, okay, I know I need some time off. Let me start talking with my leaders. Let me start preparing the way. Let me start talking with my elder team and saying, hey, I'm going to start bringing in guest speakers just a little bit more. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to be standing front row worshiping. I'm going to be there amening that leader, but I am going to start empowering other people to do that. What's required is obviously telling your leadership, but it's also a level of humility for you as the leader to take a step back and start celebrating other leaders. As you start shifting that culture, you'll start finding that your values, the value that you bring to the table, especially on the elder level or your direct report level or whatever, where your value used to just be in how often you're standing on stage, that will start to tip into how great of leadership you are building around you and creating those moments like with Paul and Timothy. It's like, I'm sending Timothy to you. Paul could have been like, I need to go, Timothy, because I'm the guy, like, have you seen these epistles I've written? I really need to be the one there. He doesn't do that. He's like, I'm sending Timothy. He honors the heck out of Timothy. He's like, this guy's amazing. You're going to, this is the sort of biblical idea of leadership that we have to start embracing. And where I think you feel out of control as a leader is when you start feeling like, how do I want to say it? I think the better way to say this is, if you're feeling like you don't have any control over that, most likely it's an internal struggle and not an organizational struggle that you're really confronting. So if you're insecure as a leader, you might go, I'm burned out, but you find yourself going to every single event because you cannot untangle your identity with what your church is doing. Mm-hmm. And you have to have this loving, like, arm's distance between what you do and who you are and what your church does and who you are. And so for me, I'm like, this Wednesday we have a prayer service. I'm not in charge of any of it. Could some of it go weird? It could. Could the song choice maybe not be what I want it to be? That could be. But I've already just let go mentally of it, and I'm going to show up and just enjoy whatever it is, And for leaders, I think you just have to confront a lot of maybe the pride you're bringing to the table, the lies that you're believing about your own importance that make you exhausted. And it is like that prideful taskmaster that we sometimes start to serve is completely graceless. I mean, the pride that tells you you're the best leader in the room is also the thing that adds 8,000 pounds on your shoulders, Yeah. It is not that idol of of being the best one in the room is not gracious on you. It's very hard on you. And so I think you have to start with yourself. And you can really see some changes in organizations. If you're feeling like, hey, my heart attitude actually is really good, I've been working on that, then you just have to start working on your leaders, your elder team and everyone else. Take them out to lunch. Don't feel like, one of my favorite books in the world is How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. Don't feel like you have no power, because you have some. You could go meet with leaders and say, hey, let's go out to lunch. Let's talk about this a little bit, and start planting the seeds for you doing a sabbatical or something like that. Sabbatical changed my life. I mean, 3 months away, it absolutely changed my life. And it's not because I got a lot of rest. I think that's kind of a misnomer. It was like, honestly, in some ways, I felt like I was a worse person after my 3 months of sabbatical. And what the Lord highlighted is, you've got a problem and you can't blame your work anymore. So now what are you going to do with that knowledge? If you never take time off, you never get that awesome opportunity to grow deeper, to really know how to grow better as a leader. And when I came back after 3 months of sabbatical, it just radically changed me. And my whole team knew it. My whole team's like, wow, you seem like you're more relaxed. You seem like your authority has actually risen because you're not worried about all the details, like all these things that everyone is going, oh, okay, now we get why sabbatical is so important. So I was all over the place, but hopefully there's something meaningful in there.
No, it was really great. I was thinking about, when Jesus talks about pruning, and I think we in the church are so obsessed with outward facing metrics that always have to be going up, and assuming that is what growth is. Yeah. But a lot of times growth is cutting things back and doing the things that might seem to diminish you for a season on the outward, on all the outward metrics, but it's really what God wants to do within you in that season that produces the fruit that's actually going to last.
Absolutely.
And I think we as a church and we as individuals have to be more comfortable with embracing those pruning seasons. And actually sometimes knowing when, okay, sometimes the Lord cuts us back, and sometimes we need to be wise enough to know when we need to cut ourselves back and make that space.